My parents blew off my major career launch to prop up my brother's hobby. After a lifetime of being their second best, I'm Ethan, 30 years old. And if you'd asked me a decade ago what my biggest fear was, it wouldn't have been failure or loneliness or even public speaking. It would have been becoming invisible. Not literally, of course, but emotionally. Because for as long as I could remember, that's exactly how I felt in my own family, constantly overshadowed by my older brother, Liam. Liam is 32, and from the outside, he's the quintessential charming older sibling. Charismatic, a little bit of a dreamer, always chasing some new passion project. To my parents, Richard and Sarah, he was a genius, a free spirit, an artist. To me, he was a black hole for attention and resources. I remember my 5th grade science fair. I'd spent weeks building a working miniature hydroelectric dam, meticulously researching, wiring, and testing. It was complex, functional, and I was so proud. My parents glanced at it, nodded, and my mom said, "That's nice, dear." The very next weekend, Liam, then 7, finger-painted a blob he called a cosmic vortex. My parents hung it on the fridge with magnetic fanfare, praising his unbounded creativity. That was the pattern. Liam's mediocre art project was hailed as a stroke of genius, while my competitive robotics win in high school, a national competition, mind you, was met with a casual, "Oh, that's great, Ethan. Did you remember to take out the trash?" Money was always tight for me, it seemed. When I needed a better computer for my coding projects in middle school, the answer was always, "We just don't have the funds right now, son." Yet, Liam always had the latest, most expensive gear for his fleeting interests. A top-of-the-line guitar for his brief rock band phase, followed by a professional-grade camera for his photojournalism stint, then an entire studio setup for his experimental soundscapes. Each time, my parents would dip into savings, take out loans, or just find the money, because Liam needs to express himself. Meanwhile, I worked odd jobs, saved every penny, and pieced together my own equipment. It wasn't just material things. Whenever Liam messed up, which was often, my parents were there, a human safety net. Car troubles? They'd pay for the repairs or buy him a new one. A failed business venture? He had several. They'd bail him out, no questions asked. I, on the other hand, was expected to be self-sufficient, responsible, and problem-solve on my own. If I ever asked for help, it was met with a sigh and a lecture about pulling my own weight. It felt like a cruel joke. Living in that kind of environment, where your efforts are overlooked and your struggles are dismissed, it wears on you. You start to question your own worth. Am I not good enough? Am I fundamentally less deserving of their love and support? The constant questioning, the relentless striving for recognition that never came, it built up inside me like a ticking time bomb. The breaking point came when I was 22, nearing the end of my engineering degree. I worked my tail off, taking out significant student loans to cover my tuition and living expenses. Liam, meanwhile, had decided to embark on a spiritual music tour across the country. It involved him and his band, who barely knew how to tune their instruments, living out a rented RV, playing open mic nights in dingy bars. My parents, without a moment's hesitation, emptied a chunk of their retirement savings to fund his adventure, even buying him a new, high-end acoustic guitar for the journey. I confronted them, my voice shaking with a decade of suppressed frustration. "You paid for his glorified road trip, his hobby," I choked out, "but I had to take out 5-figure loans for an actual degree that will lead to a career? How is that fair?" My mom looked at me, bewildered. "But Ethan, Liam needs to find himself. You're so responsible. You don't need our help like he does." My dad just nodded, a slight frown on his face. "He's more fragile." That was it. Fragile. I wasn't fragile enough for their love, their attention, their money. I was the strong one, the self-sufficient one, which apparently meant I deserved nothing. The argument escalated into a shouting match, the worst we'd ever had. The next day, I packed my bags. I found a tiny, rundown apartment near campus and moved out. That physical distance, the space away from the constant comparisons and judgments, it was like breathing for the first time. For the first time, I could just be Ethan without the shadow of Liam or the heavy weight of their expectations. But even then, I knew the emotional scars were still there, deep beneath the surface. I just hoped they would eventually fade. The initial years of living on my own were liberating. I threw myself into my studies, then into building my career. I worked tirelessly, fueled by a quiet determination to prove myself, not to them, but to myself. I built a life that was entirely my own, free from the constant comparisons and the exhausting emotional gymnastics of trying to earn parental approval. I thrived professionally, honing my skills as a software engineer, eventually dreaming of building something truly impactful. Life was good. And then the phone call came. It was Aunt Carol, my dad's sister, her voice laced with panic. "Ethan, your father, he's in the hospital. Heart attack. It's serious." Despite the years of low contact, the anger, the unresolved pain, a primal instinct kicked in. He was my father. I might resent his choices, but I couldn't ignore his suffering. I drove straight to the hospital, my stomach churning with a mix of dread and a strange, hesitant hope. When I walked into his room, he looked frail, pale, and utterly defeated. My mom was there, her eyes red-rimmed. Liam was nowhere to be seen, of course. He probably had an inspiration to follow, or perhaps he was too busy with his latest venture, bespoke artisanal dog biscuits. The initial interactions were tentative, awkward. We spoke in hushed tones, mostly about medical updates. Liam eventually showed up, a brief, dramatic appearance, making a show of concern, then disappearing quickly, claiming he had an important investor meeting for his dog biscuit startup. In those quiet hospital moments, my parents seemed more vulnerable than I'd ever seen them. My dad, usually so stoic, looked utterly defeated. My mom, perpetually anxious, was a bundle of nerves. Slowly, cautiously, they started talking about their financial woes. It wasn't just the medical bills, they explained. Liam's various startups had, over the years, drained their savings. The artisanal dog biscuit venture, apparently, was hemorrhaging money. Their house, their retirement, it was all on the line. A part of me wanted to say, "I told you so." Another, more pragmatic part, saw an opening. A chance, however slim, to reset the dynamic. To show them that I could be there, that I was reliable, not just an afterthought. Perhaps, just perhaps, if I stepped up when Liam couldn't, they would finally see me as an equal. It was a calculated risk, I knew. I offered to help substantially, not alone, not a small sum, but enough to genuinely make a difference, to alleviate some of their immediate burdens. This isn't charity, I told myself. This is an investment in a potentially healthier family dynamic. And there was an unspoken boundary. If they ever crossed me again, if they ever took my support for granted, the tap would be closed permanently. They knew it, too. They couldn't afford to mess up this time. For a while, it seemed to work. When Liam would try to stir trouble or make another outrageous financial demand, my parents would, to my astonishment, actually defend me. "Liam, Ethan is really helping us out," my mom would say. "You need to be more appreciative." Or my dad, in his quiet way, would murmur, "Liam, you haven't been there when we really needed it." It was a tiny crack in their unwavering favoritism, a sliver of validation I hadn't realized I was still craving. It felt good, even if I knew it was likely born out of necessity. Through all this, Sophia was my anchor. My girlfriend of 3 years, she was a pragmatic, grounded woman who had witnessed the family dynamic firsthand. She was wary, constantly reminding me to protect my boundaries, but she supported my desire for a genuine connection. "Just be careful, Ethan," she'd say, her hand squeezing mine. "Don't let them drag you back into that vortex." Then, amidst this fragile family truce, something truly wonderful happened. After a quiet dinner celebrating our anniversary, I got down on one knee. "Sophia," I said, my voice thick with emotion, "you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Will you marry me?" She said yes, tears in her eyes. It felt like my life was finally, truly on an upswing. I was building my career, mending, or so I thought, my relationship with my parents, and now I was engaged to the woman I adored. Liam, predictably, couldn't hide his disdain when he found out. He scoffed. "Rushing into things, aren't we, Ethan? Marriage is a huge commitment." He, of course, was still exploring his options. A week later, he casually mentioned he was planning a small, intimate gathering to celebrate his recent breakthrough in artisanal candle making, around the same time as my proposed launch date for my company. I just shrugged it off. His petty jealousy wouldn't spoil my happiness. Nothing would. The months leading up to the launch of Nexus Innovations were a blur of late nights, caffeine, and a relentless pursuit of perfection. This wasn't just a tech company. It was the culmination of everything I'd worked for, every sacrifice I'd made, every doubt I'd overcome. It was my magnum opus, years of grinding, innovating, and pouring every ounce of my being into building something truly groundbreaking. Our launch event, scheduled for a Saturday morning in a chic downtown venue, was going to be a high-stakes investor pitch followed by a public unveiling. This was the day. I sent out meticulous invitations to my parents and Liam, emphasizing the significance of the event. I made sure they knew how much it would mean to me for them to be there, to witness this moment. I wanted them to see my success, not just hear about it. I wanted, desperately, for them to finally look at me with pride, with the same awe they reserved for Liam's fleeting whims. The morning of the launch, my stomach was a knot of nervous excitement. Sophia, ever calm and supportive, was by my side, her hand a steadying presence in mine. The venue was buzzing. Tech journalists were milling about. Potential investors were exchanging business cards. Everything was set. The clock ticked past the scheduled start time. 15 minutes. Then 30. Then 45. My parents and Liam were nowhere. I paced, trying to look casual, but my heart was thumping a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I made polite small talk, checked my phone every 30 seconds, forcing a smile that felt brittle. Sophia tried to reassure me, whispering, "They'll be here, honey. Traffic probably." But the hope in her voice was as thin as the one dwindling inside me. The empty chairs in the front row, where they were supposed to sit, screamed louder than any conversation. Finally, with a forced cheerfulness, I stepped onto the stage, about to begin. Just as I opened my mouth, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A new notification. It was a public social media post from Aunt Carol. My blood ran cold as I saw the image. It was a photo of my parents, Liam, and a smattering of other relatives. They were all beaming, laughing, holding up what looked like lopsided, barely burning candles. The caption read, "So proud of Liam's entrepreneurial spirit. Family comes first. Celebrating the grand launch of Liam's artisanal candle company today." The words hit me like a physical blow. Family comes first. On my launch day, the culmination of a decade of blood, sweat, and tears, they were celebrating Liam's latest whimsical hobby, an artisanal candle company, no less. The juxtaposition was brutal. While I was about to present the product of my life's work to a room full of industry leaders, they were publicly, gleefully prioritizing his fleeting, ridiculous venture. It was a direct, public slap in the face. Their smiles, their proud expressions directed at Liam, made it clear who their only son truly was. I don't know how I did it, but I delivered that presentation. My words flowed, the slides transitioned perfectly. I answered questions articulately. But I was hollow. My voice, my actions, they were on autopilot. The elation, the nervous energy had been replaced by a cold, quiet fury that settled deep in my bones. I could barely feel the congratulatory handshakes afterwards. I thanked everyone, dismissed them politely, and then collapsed into Sophia's arms, the strength draining out of me. That night, after the adrenaline wore off, as Sophia held me, I picked up my phone. My fingers trembled as I typed a message to my parents, each word a stone weighing down my heart. "You made your choice today," I wrote, my voice hoarse, though no one could hear it. "Don't ever contact me again. I'm done." I blocked their numbers, their emails, their social media accounts. Then I blocked Liam's and Aunt Carol's. The finality of it brought a strange, unsettling mix of relief and profound sorrow. I had cut the cord, but it felt like severing a limb. It was over. For the first few days after the launch, there was a strange, eerie silence. My phone, usually buzzing with incoming messages from them, remained still. It was a respite, but also a tension, like waiting for a storm to break. And then the storm hit. It started with messages from unknown numbers, emails flooding my inbox, and then calls from mutual acquaintances. My parents and Liam were frantic. The messages were a torrent of accusations, pleas, and thinly veiled manipulations. "Ethan, you're overreacting," one text from my mom read. "Liam really needed us that day. He was having a crisis." My dad's email spoke of a small emergency and how they never meant to hurt me. Lies. All of it. Aunt Carol even called Sophia, trying to get her to talk some sense into me. The apologies quickly dissolved into outright demands. "Ethan, your father's medical bills are astronomical," my mom's voicemail shrieked. "And Liam's business is struggling. You promised to help us." They were well aware that Liam was incapable of providing any real financial support, so their focus shifted entirely to me. They didn't just hint at my financial aid, they demanded I reinstate it, leveraging their sacrifices and family duty against me. It was like they still saw me as an endless resource, not a son. Then came Liam's piece de resistance, his latest gambit. He started spreading rumors, insidiously at first, then more openly, across social media and through any mutual contact who would listen. He claimed that Nexus Innovations, my groundbreaking tech startup, was built on his original ideas. He implied that I, the heartless corporate shark, had stolen his creative genius and profited from it. Ethan always copied my ideas as a kid. He'd post vaguely, tagging me in passive-aggressive updates. It's a shame some people forget where they come from and who truly inspired them. This gained traction with relatives and even some of their friends who had always swallowed Liam's narrative hook, line, and sinker. They believed Liam was the creative one, and I was just the worker bee. My parents, instead of refuting these outlandish claims, threw their weight behind Liam. They painted me as an ungrateful son, abandoning them in their hour of need, and validating Liam's narrative that I was somehow morally corrupt for succeeding while they struggled. "After all we've done for you, Ethan," my dad would say in hushed, disappointed tones to anyone who would listen, "the least you could do is help your brother and your family stabilize." The pressure escalated to a horrifying new level. The constant emails and voicemails hinting at their dire financial straits culminated in an explicit threat. If I didn't resume financial support, they might be forced to move in with me. "It would be good for us, Ethan," my mom wrote in an email. "A chance to mend our strained relationship, to live as one happy family under the same roof." The thought made my blood run cold. Living with them, after all the effort I'd put into establishing my boundaries, into building my own peaceful life, it was unimaginable. It was a last-ditch, desperate, and utterly manipulative attempt to regain control and reinsert themselves into my daily life. Sophia, bless her heart, was my unwavering rock. She listened patiently as I recounted the latest onslaught, her hand firm in mine. "Ethan," she'd say, her voice calm and steady, "you are not obligated to fix their financial problems, nor are you responsible for Liam's failures. This is emotional blackmail, plain and simple. You set boundaries for a reason." She helped me filter the noise, reminding me of my self-worth and the peace I had fought so hard to create. I also confided in David, my mentor. He's a seasoned veteran in the tech world, and he'd seen every kind of family drama, every kind of corporate manipulation. "Protect your intellectual property, Ethan," he advised, his eyes serious. "And more importantly, protect your peace of mind. Consult a lawyer. Document everything. Their desperation makes them dangerous." His words resonated deeply. Every manipulative act, every false accusation, every insinuation, it just hardened my resolve. The fragile hope of a genuine family connection had completely shattered, replaced by a steely determination to protect myself. I knew what I had to do. The threat of them moving in, coupled with Liam's increasingly malicious public defamation, was the final straw. I called a lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense professional recommended by David. I laid out the entire saga, the years of favoritism, the financial manipulations, the current barrage of harassment, and Liam's outrageous claims of intellectual property theft. The lawyer listened patiently, taking detailed notes, her expression unreadable. After reviewing the documented communications, the lawyer advised a clear course of action. We started with cease and desist letters. One went to Liam, meticulously detailing the legal consequences of his continued defamation and false claims regarding Nexus Innovations' intellectual property. The other went to my parents, a stark warning against further harassment and their baseless financial demands. The letters were firm, leaving no room for misinterpretation. They laid out the facts, the legal precedents, and the severe repercussions should their behavior persist. My parents' response was a new level of audacity. Instead of backing down, they doubled down. I received an email from them, a detailed, itemized list of expenses for my upbringing. It included everything: private elementary school tuition, clothes, food, holiday gifts, birthday parties, even emotional labor they claimed to have expended. It was calculated down to the last penny, totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars. Our investment in your upbringing and education entitles us to a share in your success, the email stated, reducing our relationship to a series of cold, calculated transactions. They framed it as my debt to them, claiming I owed them a portion of my earnings. It was sickening. They also layered on more emotional manipulation, implying that if I didn't comply, I would be solely responsible for their impending financial ruin and the loss of the family home. Liam, meanwhile, reacted to his cease and desist letter with predictable public outrage. He didn't back down. Instead, he took to social media, posting screenshots of the letter, twisting the narrative to paint himself as the ultimate victim. He portrayed me as a heartless, rich brother who was destroying the family and silencing the truth. He screamed about my corporate lawyers and his artistic integrity. But this time, his public meltdown backfired spectacularly. Many people, especially those in the tech community who had followed the Nexus Innovations launch, saw through his thinly veiled attempt at manipulation. On David's advice, I released a carefully worded, professional statement through Nexus Innovations' public relations channels. It didn't name names, but it subtly addressed false claims of intellectual property theft and unprofessional attacks, reaffirming our commitment to ethical business practices and positive relationships built on mutual respect. Sophia, in her quiet, powerful way, also posted a photo on her personal social media. It was a picture of me at the launch, looking tired but determined, captioned, "So proud to witness true dedication and integrity. Some things can't be fabricated." The message was clear. The public response was overwhelmingly in my favor. Liam's reputation, already fragile, was effectively ruined. Any chance of future funding for his hobbies from strangers evaporated. The extended family, who had previously been swayed by Liam's drama, began to divide. Some, horrified by Liam's public display and my parents' itemized bill, started reaching out to me privately, expressing belated sympathy and even apologies. Aunt Carol tried to mediate, but I held firm, simply stating that the matter was now out of my hands and with legal counsel. The emotional toll of these developments was immense. Each email, each post, each desperate plea chipped away at my resolve. It was a constant battle to remind myself that I was not responsible for their happiness, their poor choices, or their financial instability. But I was on solid ground, legally and emotionally. The lawyer confirmed their claims had no basis. I kept meticulous records of every communication. This was no longer just about me. It was about protecting my well-being, my future, and the integrity of Nexus Innovations. The legal actions, the public unmasking, and the sheer exhaustion from the constant battle eventually forced a truce of sorts. Not a reconciliation, but a cessation of hostilities. My lawyer ensured the cease and desist orders were enforced. I took drastic measures, changing all my contact information, phone numbers, email addresses, and even relocating to a new, undisclosed address. The necessity of erasing my old life, of physically putting distance between myself and their toxicity, was a testament to how deeply they had impacted me. It was a drastic measure, but essential for reclaiming my peace. The silence that followed was both a relief and a profound sadness. I had achieved true independence, but at the cost of severing ties with my entire immediate family. There were moments of quiet grief, mourning the family I wished I had, the parental figures who were supposed to be my unwavering support system. But those moments were quickly overshadowed by the profound sense of peace and freedom that settled over me. I sought therapy, acknowledging the years of emotional trauma had left their mark. It was crucial to process the pain, to learn healthier coping mechanisms, and to understand that their choices were not a reflection of my worth. My therapist helped me reframe my understanding of family, showing me that true family is built on respect, love, and support, not obligation or manipulation. Meanwhile, Nexus Innovations continued to thrive. Free from the constant emotional drain, I could pour all my energy into my work. The company flourished, exceeding all expectations. My relationship with Sophia deepened, built on a foundation of unwavering trust, open communication, and mutual respect. She was my unwavering beacon of strength, my confidant, my partner in every sense of the word. We started planning our wedding, a quiet affair with only those who truly supported us. It was a stark contrast to the grand, yet empty, launch event I'd endured. I also invested deeply in my chosen family, my close friends, supportive colleagues, and David, my mentor. They became my new support system, a network of people who genuinely celebrated my successes and offered comfort during my struggles, without judgment or expectation. Their unwavering presence helped me heal and understand what healthy relationships truly felt like. There was a final, difficult conversation with my Uncle Mark, a distant relative who tried to reason with me. He implied I was being too harsh, that family was family. I calmly, firmly explained everything, detailing the years of neglect, the constant manipulation, the public humiliation, and the ultimate betrayal on the day of my launch. I didn't yell. I just stated the facts, the emotional weight of each incident laid bare. Uncle Mark, I said, my voice steady, I'm not abandoning them. I'm protecting myself from their destructive behavior. I will not be a source of financial support or an emotional dumping ground any longer. They made their choices, and now they have to live with the consequences. He listened, his face crumbling. For the first time, I felt truly heard by a family member. My parents, stripped of their primary financial support, and now facing the quiet judgment of some relatives due to Liam's public meltdown and their itemized bill, were forced to genuinely confront their situation. Liam's various ventures completely collapsed, and he was forced to find a real job. There is a quiet satisfaction in seeing the natural consequences of their actions, a sense of justice, even if it was a bitter one. Today, I live a life filled with purpose and genuine connection. The void where my family once was is still there, a phantom ache, but it's no longer an open wound. It's a reminder of the battles fought, the lessons learned, and the strength discovered. I have achieved independence, success, and most importantly, peace. But the question lingers, a quiet echo in the back of my mind. Will they ever truly understand the depth of their actions, the pain they inflicted? Or will I ever truly heal from the void they left? I don't have the answers. Perhaps some stories don't have a neat, tied-up ending. Perhaps some wounds just become scars, a testament to what we survived.